Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
So we need to get the facts straight. How does this virus work? How does it transmit? Where does it want to go? And let's protect ourselves. I'm Dr. Peter Lin. I'm a family physician in Toronto, Canada. The coronavirus is a family of viruses that can cause as mild things as just a common cold, all the way up to SARS or MERS. These are these bad pneumonias that we're talking about. And basically what these viruses are, they look like a tennis ball with all these spikes sticking out of it. And depending on the type of spike, it allows that virus to attach to certain places. So some viruses, they have the spike that attaches to your nose. So basically you just get a common cold. But the SARS virus and this new virus that we're talking about has the spike that allows it to attach to the cells in your lung. And when it attaches there, it puts in information to make photocopies of itself. So it uses our equipment to make more viruses.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of novel coronavirus.
Most of the coronaviruses live in animals. In this particular case, it was from Wuhan. There was a fish market where they were selling live animals. And the thought is that the virus was in a live animal, then it crossed into a human. But then what we found was that people were getting sick in terms of healthcare workers, in terms of family members that were looking after them, which now meant that the virus can pass from human to another human. Just like all viruses, it needs to reach a target, which is your lung. And it has to get there with your help. It has no feet and no wings. So therefore it needs us to move it there. So that's why we keep saying, don't hang around sneezy people because you're gonna breathe it in. And don't touch your face because that's how the virus is gonna get in. The masks are helpful, but they're not necessary because they're leaky. The ones that you and I buy basically have pockets here, so therefore the virus can get in. What the masks really do is they stop us from touching our face. If you're sick, we tend to mask you, so therefore you're not spewing out the viruses to other people sitting around you. The true people that have the real masks are the N95. Those are sealed. These are for the doctors that may be caring for their patients. So in the beginning, the coronavirus will cause kind of like flu-like symptoms or a cold. So people just get the stuffy nose, that kind of thing. But you'll understand that as soon as that virus starts manufacturing in your lung cells, they're producing all these copies of the virus, all of a sudden now you kill the lung cells. So now you can't exchange oxygen. And that's why one of the early symptoms is people get very short of breath and they tend to have a difficult time breathing, and that's why they end up in hospital. So currently, unfortunately, we don't have a direct treatment for the coronavirus. So we don't have a medication that can kill it off. And so it's really supportive. So in other words, the patient can't breathe, we give them oxygen, help them to breathe. They can't drink, so therefore we give them fluids to support them. Their kidneys begin to shut down, we help them with all those things. So it's a very supportive process. This is a new virus that we've never seen before. So our immune system, our army, are having a hard time figuring out what to do. So usually what we have to do is we make something called antibodies. So these are things that can grab onto the spikes that we see on the virus, and it will get rid of the virus for you, and that will actually bring you back to good health. So therefore the elderly may have a worse outcome, and of course the young children. So the babies, their immune system is not so good either, so they may not make those antibodies as well. So just remember, your hands may be with virus. Virus cannot hurt you because it can't get through the skin, but the moment I do this, now I've brought the virus right to where it wants to go. So let's remember not to touch our hands to our face. So let's say you think that you might have been on a plane or you might have bumped into somebody that has it. What should you do? So the first thing is to contact a healthcare worker to tell them that potentially you have it. If you're feeling symptoms and you're going to go into a facility, call ahead. Okay, so whether you're calling the paramedics or whether you're calling the hospital or your doctor, just mention that you were on a flight. If you don't have any symptoms, then what we do is a little bit of a self-quarantine. In other words, we can just keep you away from other people, and so you don't go into parties, don't go with your friends, don't go into public transportation. So we can contain it very easily by making sure that you do a self-confinement, so to speak, for the, let's say, 7 to 14 days is the longest incubation time. So after that, if you're feeling well, then you don't have anything to worry about. If we get the facts right, then we don't have to be overly worried, but we do the right things so that we don't get the virus ourselves and that we don't pass it on to others. And if we look after each other in this way, this virus will have nowhere to go. It needs us to move it, it needs us to make copies for it, and if we don't help it, then the virus will stop. So we have the power to do that right now.
Grenada hailed yet again for structural adjustment reform. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Tuesday, February 11th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. Grenada has again been recognized for significant improvements in its overall economic activity following implementation of its structural reform program. During the annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank on Tuesday, the bank's Director of Economics, Dr. Justin Ram, singled out Grenada for being able to significantly reduce its debt-to-GDP ratio as a result of belt-tightening measures.
There have only been a few countries in the Caribbean that have recently implemented significant fiscal reforms and structural reforms as well. And I can say to you that the countries that have done that, the majority of them have seen improvements in their overall economic activity. Take, for example, Grenada. When Grenada began its homegrown adjustment program a few years ago, it had a debt-to-GDP ratio in excess of 100%. Today, I'm happy to report that that debt-to-GDP ratio is below 60%. This is 10 years ahead of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union's target of when they should have achieved this target, which there's that target that has been set by 2030.
Grenada's Premier Athletic Championship is returning, but under new sponsorship. A press launch was held on Tuesday to announce the launch of the 3-day Republic Bank Inter-Secondary Schools Athletics Championship, or Intercol, which will take place on March 31st and April 1st and 2nd. For more than 38 years, the games were held under the title sponsorship of Scotiabank, which was acquired by Republic Bank just over 3 months ago. Mr. Keith Johnson, Managing Director of Republic Bank, says this is a new beginning of a partnership between Republic Bank and Intercol.
But we're very pleased to host this first ever Republic Bank Inter-Secondary Schools Athletic Championships, fondly referred to as Intercol. As has been said before, Republic Bank boasts an enviable track record of support in the area of youth development through sports. And the Intercol Games is a huge addition to the illustrious list of sporting activities supported by the bank, such as the Right Start Youth Football Tournament, the Right Start Under-19 Inter-Parish Cricket Tournament, and the National Learn to Swim Week, just to name a few.
Mr. Kevin Andel, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information, says government values the place that Intercol has in the lives and fabric of the Grenadian society.
Our students, through the Intercol and other sporting activities, better the economic status. And we have many examples. We can just think of one, Kirani James. But not only better in his economic status, but also he became an ambassador for our country. The mileage that we have gained from Kirani James' exploit, we cannot pay for that. But remember vividly the humble days of Intercol when Kirani showcased his talent. Also, the Intercol and what it provides has also created an opportunity for scouts to see our talents. And some of our students through Intercol and the exhibition, through that event, is the only opportunity for higher education.
And the chairman of the Grenada Association of Secondary School Principals, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, says coverage for athletes is currently a significant talking point.
One way to ensure the care and development of our athletes is not only about managing the number of events that they participate in, but it's also about ensuring that they have coverage. And we are pleased to announce that for the first time in the history of the Games, we are negotiating coverage for our athletes.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Kayak Mass 2020. February 15th to February 25th. And the real events making one spectacular carnival. Saturday, February 15th. Children Mass, Frolic, and the Big Show. Thursday, February 20th. Queen Show Night. February 21st. Soca Monarch. Saturday, 22nd. Jab Convention. Calypso and Groovy. Sunday, February 23rd. Monday, Juve and Monday Night Mass. Tuesday, February 25th. Shakespeare Mass. And the Last Lap. All the major MCs and DJs will be inside Kayak Mass 2020. Make reservations and book now.
Continuing the news, the Ministry of Health says while there is no evidence that the coronavirus is in the region, systems have been put in place for testing. Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Francis Martin says CARFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, now has the ability to test for the virus.
We have swabs that we're able to use to get samples, and CARFA is able to test. So Grenada will be using CARFA for the testing of coronavirus, and this can happen right now as we speak, and that's a plus for us. As with many of our smaller islands, turnaround time has to do with travel. That's really what it is, because it takes a couple hours to actually do the test. So our focus is how efficient is our shipping and receiving the samples. CARFA confirmed to us that in a couple hours they can give us a result. And if there's a need for confirmation, well, there's some other DNA typing that they may do if they get a positive test. That might take another 2 days. But in terms of the positive test, in a few hours the result is available.
Health Minister, the Honourable Nicholas Steele, says CARICOM health ministers have also put systems in place to ensure efficiency in transport of tests once the need arises.
We have confirmed through all of the various ports, i.e. all of the airports, that the tests will be allowed to transit through on LIAT or Caribbean Airways or any other method, and also that there is a backup of RSS, that RSS logistically will be assisting as well, regional security services with their aircraft if necessary.
Meanwhile, the head of the Epidemiological and Surveillance Units, Dr. Sean Charles, says passengers arriving on flights with those who have been quarantined are not at risk if those individuals have no exhibited symptoms.
The disease is transmitted by respiratory droplets that are expelled or ejected when someone coughs and sneezes and so on. Someone who is asymptomatic, they have no cough, they're not sneezing on anyone, the mere fact that they're breathing the same air with you does not mean that you are at risk of getting the disease. All right, the disease is transmitted by respiratory droplets that are produced and expelled when someone coughs and sneezes or so. So if someone does not have these signs and symptoms, then they will not transmit the disease.
Grenada is being represented at the World Bank's International Development Association IDA high-level meeting with the Eastern Caribbean, which is taking place in Miami this week. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, and Minister for Climate Resilience and the Environment, Senator Simon Steele, are among government representatives from the Eastern Caribbean attending the meeting, along with representatives from the World Bank. The high-level dialogue is intended to discuss strategic priorities in preparation for the utilization of IDA resources from July 2020 to June 2023. Blue economy and renewable energy are particular areas of focus for the meeting. According to the invitation letter from the World Bank, and I quote, the purpose is to have an evidence-based dialogue, reach a joint understanding on the state of play in these areas, and access the potential for future IDA 19 supported engagement and development results, unquote. IDA 19 resources for Grenada, Dominica, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are estimated at $350 million. Under IDA 18, Grenada benefited from $74 million that supported government's resilience building and digital transformation agendas and other strategic areas. The IDA resources were in the form of 2 policy-based loans, valued at $50 million to support climate resilience and fiscal sustainability, $15 million for digital governance for resilience project, $6 million for a regional health project, and $3 million in additional support for CASIP project. And finally, Grenada has won the quartz reading competition. Melody Garrett from Mount Rose SDA triumphed over her regional colleagues in the final in St. Lucia on Tuesday. Her winning prizes include a check valued at $5,000, a trophy, and a laptop. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Spicemas Corporation realizes that the guidelines for Fancy Mass for Spicemas 2020, posted on our website yesterday, have caused much disturbance and debate on social media. The specific guideline referenced thongs, G-string, wire bras, and nudity in general, was born out of public outcry in the last 2 years. Understanding that we are living in a Christian society, our morals and values must be upheld. Considering this, these guidelines were put forward to the mass bands as part of their registration package in the process of registration, which ended on January 15, 2020. To date, 15 bands have registered. They were previewed to and signed the said guidelines in their registration package to complete the registration process. SMC is committed towards preserving and enhancing our premier cultural product as guided by the laws of Grenada. Considering this, the Board of Directors of SMC will review the guidelines and an update will be posted in short order.
The strength of the iron, it's in the testing. Bring them up. It's not a loss, it's just a lesson. Be grateful for your blessings. You've been digging deep to find that inner strength. No, it's not the time to give up. No, nah. I'm telling you, nothing they do will never defeat me. We control your destiny. I'm telling you, take your hand and point it up in the ceiling for me. I feel so irate. Wake up and I'm ready. Must make it ever steady. Setting goals is necessary while they hiding. Precious time they wasting like a disease is that spreading. Know it shift their eyesight. I say, I don't know why. Some will worry about the next man's stride. Try to match up a next man's life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, yeah man. I don't come here for that, so you help me burn and dirty.
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Cicero Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 WeiVybz Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video. Remember to like the live, share the live, get everybody involved in the conversation. Of course, we know that the topic continues with the coronavirus. Everybody is still in their feels about it. Everybody is still concerned. Everybody is still a little bit emotional. But of course, we have vouched to provide you with information as it becomes available, and of course to encourage you and continue to encourage you to take all of the precautionary measures that you can. All right, as it stands this morning, let me just pull up the time here. February 12th, so that's this morning. Of course, I keep up to date with the numbers, up to date with what's going on. And as it stands of this morning, there were 45,204 persons infected with the coronavirus. And of course, out of that, we had 1,118 deaths, 4,847 persons recovered from the virus. And I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of where these cases have been identified. We have 686 cases identified in China, 203 in Japan, 49 in Hong Kong, 47 in Singapore, 33 in Thailand, 28 in South Korea, 18 in Malaysia, 18 in Taiwan, 16 in Germany, 15 in Australia, Vietnam also 15, 13 in the USA, 11 in France. We have 8 in the UK, 8 in the United Arab Emirates, 7 in Canada, 3 in the Philippines, 3 in India, 3 in Italy, 2 in Russia, 2 in Spain, 1 in Cambodia, 1 in Nepal, 1 Sri Lanka, 1 Sweden, Finland, and Belgium. All right? And out of all of these cases, we have had 4,847 recoveries. All right? So we want you guys to keep that in mind. Remember, the site that you can check this information on is Worldometer. All right, and it gives you a daily update of the virus and what has been going on. And of course, new information shows that as of the 11th of February, there were 39 new cases in Japan, and that was aboard the cruise ship. And of course, there were 2 new cases in Germany. Let's see here. 2 new cases in Singapore, 7 new cases in Hong Kong, 1 in Thailand. All right, and 2 new cases from Japan, in Japan on island itself, 2 men who would have returned from Wuhan at the end of January, and there is 1 new case in the United States, 1 new case in South Korea. So keep abreast with what's happening as it relates to the coronavirus. Ensure that you are listening to your local health officials. They have the facts, they have the details, they have the updated information as it becomes available fresh from the press. Factual information. So you want to keep abreast with that. And some of you may be wondering, well, how do I know? You know, as it stands right now, we are still in the clear, right? As it stands right now, we are still in the clear. And I feel like I need to always say it doesn't mean, or it's not me saying that we don't have to be concerned. We have to be concerned. However, with concern, we must be level-headed and we must still try and find the facts, stick to the facts, and share the factual information. So for confirmed corona infections, reported illnesses have ranged from people with mild symptoms to people being severely ill and dying. All right, and symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. All right, so you want to take all of these things into consideration. All right, we do have a call coming in this morning from Mr. Kevin Frederick, who vows to keep us updated as well. He is one of the representatives from the Ministry of Health, and he always keeps up to date, or he's always informed on what is happening as it happens, and gives us the information as it comes along. I mean, it is a grave situation. It is something that we definitely do have to be concerned about. We have to keep abreast with. But of course, we want to make sure that when we're sharing information, that the information that we are sharing is with the intent to inform and not to mislead. All right? Because we seem to have a lot of specialists, a lot of theorists, especially when there is an issue. But we want to make sure that we're doing the responsible thing, and that when we share information, it's factual information and it's for educational purposes only, and not meant to sensitize or to gain any political mileage as a result of it. All right? So as it stands right now, we have 45,208 confirmed cases and 1,118 deaths. And that is as of February 12th, 2020. All right? And, of course, later on in the program, I will be sharing with you more details as it relates to what we can do as a people, what we can do as Grenadians to ensure that we keep safe. I heard yesterday we had a cruise ship that was restricted access, all right? And it wasn't restricted access because of the coronavirus. Remember that. It was restricted access because there were a large number of the passengers with, is it gastroenteritis, all right, or gastro, as we call it, all right, which is just as contagious. All right, and can be just as bad. So we got to ensure that we are doing the right things to protect ourselves as responsible citizens. So if you know you've just traveled and you just came from a place where there's a possibility that you could have been exposed, then you want to do yourself justice. You can do a little home quarantine if you want to. You can ensure that you sanitize your hands daily. You proper cough etiquette. You want to do all of that, all right? So just be mindful. We want to keep everybody safe, all right? But it's not just the Ministry of Health alone. It's not just our health officials alone. It takes each and every single one of us to become involved, each and every single one of us to become responsible for our own health, because it's very difficult for somebody who is healthy to die from the virus. All right? Very difficult. If we look at the profiles of the people who would have passed away as a result of the virus, we're looking at persons who are already very ill, persons who are immunocompromised, people who would have already had some underlying issue, such as a cancer or HIV or, a respiratory illness, something like that, right? They would have already been immunocompromised, which means that an additional virus. It's just like if somebody has cancer and they catch the cold or the flu, their chances of dying is amplified, right? As a result of that cold or flu. So the same thing applies, right? So we just have to be very, very cautious, follow the guidelines, stick to the facts, and listen to the information that is being provided by our healthcare officials, all right? And when you go online and you search for information as it relates to the coronavirus, be careful what you share, because you can very simply, I can sit down here behind my computer and I can create some fake website and put some kind of information on it, with the hopes of getting people to become afraid or getting people to believe a certain thing. All right? But it's easy to check. Nazim, the site is, what's the name of that fact-checking site again? To check those websites to see if they are Snopes, Snopes, all right? You can use that site to make sure that the site that you're sharing or the information that you're sharing from whatever site it is factual information and that it is coming from a credible source or recognized source, all right? A factual source. Because it's not going to be a nice thing to be responsible for sharing information that is false. And a lot of us, when we share that kind of information, we don't go back and retract it. We don't go back and apologize and say, no, well, here is the correct information. We don't do none of that. Sometimes we just delete and move on our merry way and leave the hundreds of people that have been reading our posts and looking at us for information, because we're always sharing something and we have a large following and all of that. They're looking at us for information. They're looking at us for help. And it's disappointing when some of us provide information that's not true and then we don't go back and fix it. We just leave it the way that it is in the hopes that people would forget that you even posted it. And it doesn't work like that. If you're responsible for posting something that is not true, you're also responsible for going back and fix it when the truth has been discovered, right? So we got to do the responsible thing as individuals. Now, we are expecting a call from Mr. Kevin Frederick, and after he would have provided us with updates on the coronavirus, then we will take a few calls. So in the meantime, go ahead and write your questions down. Tell us what you understand by the coronavirus. Ask us information. Let us help you understand what is happening. I do believe that they would have this. As of this morning, they would have gotten a name, an official name for the coronavirus, and I believe it's COVID-19, and that was the name given to the novel coronavirus, and that was done, I believe, this morning. So you want to be updated on what's going on. And of course, the World Health Organization said that the purpose of giving it a name, it matters, of course, because it can prevent the use of other names that have inaccurate stigmatization, that can be inaccurate, or of course have stigma towards it, like Ebola and these kind of things. When you hear them kind of thing, immediately you're afraid, right? Because you know the damage that it would have done. So you want to keep updated. The World Health Organization is also on Twitter. They're on Facebook. They're all over the place. They're sharing information with you as it relates to the coronavirus. So please, go to your relevant authorities. Go to your relevant authorities. Go to their pages. So subscribe to their pages and keep yourself up to date. All right? And don't fall for the propaganda. You know, there are a lot of people out there who take this thing and try to make it political, which is very sad, who use this thing for political mileage, you know, which is very sad because we're dealing with a real issue that affects real people, you know. So you want to be careful with what you toy around with, all right? Be very, very careful with what you toy around with. We're going to take a short break and then we will be back with some more information for you.
So we need to get the facts straight. How does this virus work? How does it transmit? Where does it want to go? And let's protect ourselves. I'm Dr. Peter Lynn. I'm a family physician in Toronto, Canada. The coronavirus is a family of viruses that can cause as mild things as just a common cold, all the way up to SARS or MERS. These are these bad pneumonias that we're talking about. And basically what these viruses are, they look like a tennis ball with all these spikes sticking out of it. And depending on the type of spike, it allows that virus to attach to certain places. So some viruses, they have the spike that attaches to your nose. So basically you just get a common cold. But the SARS virus and this new virus that we're talking about has the spike that allows it to attach to the cells in your lung. And when it attaches there, it puts in information to make photocopies of itself. So it uses our equipment to make more viruses.
I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern over the global outbreak of novel coronavirus.
Most of the coronaviruses live in animals. In this particular case, it was from Wuhan. There was a fish market where they were selling live animals. And the thought is that the virus was in a live animal, then it crossed into a human. But then what we found was that people were getting sick in terms of healthcare workers, in terms of family members that were looking after them, which now meant that the virus can pass from human to another human. Just like all viruses, it needs to reach a target, which is your lung. And it has to get there with your help. It has no feet and no wings. So therefore it needs us to move it there. So that's why we keep saying, don't hang around sneezy people because you're gonna breathe it in. And don't touch your face because that's how the virus is gonna get in. The masks are helpful, but they're not necessary because they're leaky. The ones that you and I buy basically have pockets here, so therefore the virus can get in. What the masks really do is they stop us from touching our face. If you're sick, we tend to mask you, so therefore you're not spewing out the viruses to other people sitting around you. The true people that have the real masks are the N95. Those are sealed. These are for the doctors that may be caring for the patients. So in the beginning, the coronavirus will cause kind of like flu-like symptoms or a cold. So people just get the stuffy nose, that kind of thing. But you'll understand that as soon as that virus starts manufacturing in your lung cells, they're producing all these copies of the virus, all of a sudden now you kill the lung cells. So now you can't exchange oxygen. And that's why one of the early symptoms is people get very short of breath and they tend to have a difficult time breathing, and that's why they end up in hospital. So currently, unfortunately, we don't have a direct treatment for the coronavirus. So we don't have a medication that can kill it off. And so it's really supportive. So in other words, the patient can't breathe, we give them oxygen, help them to breathe. They can't drink, so therefore we give them fluids to support them. Their kidneys begin to shut down, we help them with all those things. So it's a very supportive process. This is a new virus that we've never seen before. So our immune system, our army, are having a hard time figuring out what to do. So usually what we have to do is we make something called antibodies. So these are things that can grab onto the spikes that we see on the virus, and it will get rid of the virus for you, and that will actually bring you back to good health. So therefore the elderly may have a worse outcome, and of course the young children. So the babies, their immune system is not so good either, so they may not make those antibodies as well. So just remember, your hands may be with virus. Virus cannot hurt you because it can't get through the skin, but the moment I do this, now I've brought the virus right to where it wants to go. So let's remember not to touch our hands to our face. So let's say you think that you might have been on a plane or you might have bumped into somebody that has it. What should you do? So the first thing is to contact a healthcare worker to tell them that potentially you have it. If you're feeling symptoms and you're going to go into a facility, call ahead. Okay, so whether you're calling the paramedics or whether you're calling the hospital or your doctor, just mention that you were on a flight. If you don't have any symptoms, then what we do is a little bit of a self-quarantine. In other words, we can just keep you away from other people, and so you don't go into parties, don't go with your friends, don't go into public transportation. So we can contain it very easily by making sure that you do a self-confinement, so to speak, for the, let's say, 7 to 14 days is the longest incubation time. So after that, if you're feeling well, then you don't have anything to worry about. If we get the facts right, then we don't have to be overly worried, but we do the right things so that we don't get the virus ourselves and that we don't pass it on to others. And if we look after each other in this way, this virus will have nowhere to go. It needs us to move it, it needs us to make copies for it, and if we don't help it, then the virus will stop. So we have the power to do that right now.
This is an outbreak of disease that started in Wuhan. It's one of the central Chinese cities. It's caused by a novel coronavirus. That means it's brand new, so new that actually it doesn't have a name yet. It's from a family called the coronaviruses. The symptoms of this illness are pretty mundane on the face of it. It's a dry cough, fever, and then breathing problems. It seems quite mild in lots of people, and probably those people don't end up in hospital at all. We only know about the more severe cases, which is where people have gone on to develop viral pneumonia. And those people obviously end up in hospital, and all the deaths have been amongst those people. This brand new coronavirus came from animals, and it's believed that the source was actually a seafood market in Wuhan, which also sells wild animals. So far as we know, all the cases have come out of Wuhan. So some of these people are in places like Thailand and Japan, but they haven't picked it up there. They actually got it in Wuhan and then they travelled. In China, where the most cases are, it's older people who are ending up in hospital with this. They're usually over 40, and the very youngest person diagnosed is about 13 or 14 years old. So it doesn't appear to be affecting small children, and those who've died tend actually to have underlying conditions, as they say. They're frail, they may have heart disease or cancer already, and so they're vulnerable. Basically, their immune systems are not very robust, and they're going to find it very hard to fight off a virus. We've only just discovered that the new coronavirus is actually transmitted from one person to another. It was hoped at first, actually, that it just came from animals, as all coronaviruses do, but now it looks as though it is actually passed from one human being to another. So we've got people-to-people transmission because the market's been closed for some time, and there are cases in people who've never been near it. So there actually isn't any treatment at the moment at all. Because this is a virus, antibiotics won't work. They only work against bacteria, not viruses. So really you want an antiviral treatment, but none of the flu drugs that we've got, and we have got a couple of those, will work on this. A coronavirus is different from a flu virus. So there actually isn't any treatment at the moment at all. This one is scary because it is a brand new virus, so we don't know how it's going to behave. But I have to say, we perhaps ought to put it in the context of some of the other things. I went to Sierra Leone to cover the West Africa outbreak of Ebola, and that was killing more than half of all those people who were infected. SARS, which was a novel coronavirus, just like this one, back in 2002, did end up causing a global panic. And that was largely because nobody had ever seen it before, but also the death rate was at around 10%. Well, here, so far, we're talking about a death rate of 2%, which is a lot less. And it does look as if many of those people actually have had underlying health problems, which would make it more likely that they would die. They could equally have died of flu. So you have to put it into that context, I think.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
All right, guys, and we are back. Just some information on the coronavirus there for you, and we'll continue to share it as much as possible as we can, and of course as information becomes available. Now, yesterday I would have heard some information on people talking about the coronavirus now has an incubation period of 24 days and all of that, and I'm hoping that Kevin can share some information on that when he calls back. However, from the research I've been doing, it does indicate here that the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. So any time between 2 to 14 days, that's the incubation period. However, what they've discovered is that the 24 days would have come about maybe from someone who would have been re-exposed. All right? So you would have gotten the virus, you would have recovered from it, and then you were re-exposed to it, meaning that you would have gotten it again. All right? Where it seems as if the incubation period was so very long, or you would not have shown any signs of it and you would have gone out and gotten yourself exposed to the virus again, which means that you now present after that time, you present with symptoms. Doesn't necessarily mean that 14 days is too short a time for incubation. You know, sometimes we have a lot of specialists out there and we don't listen to the actual specialists on the issue, and sometimes we ourselves believe that we know more than the specialists themselves. All right, we have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, and how do you do?
I'm good. How are you?
Right, not too bad. Have a great day. Now, in the news, the coronavirus. Yes, exactly what you said. I heard it too because I got it from the BBC. And it is not definitive for that 24-day period, so you have to wait on the experts. But you're right. Reinfected or lapse is a possibility, and so we have to be very, very careful. But that is not my concern, you know. My concern is what I have been echoing over the years of change of culture, and I went so far to say that I believe our population, and that our cultural population, which is black, can be extinct within a few years based on our behavior. And also, I am hearing now from the experts that it is likely that the Caribbean will be the poorest country in the world come 2050.
Will be the what?
Can be the poorest country in the region in the world. So that is scary. And that says we have nobody to turn to because everybody's fighting for their own survival.
For their own survival.
Struggling. And to keep up on everybody's constitution, their own population. So where we are left out in the cold. And this is the question I was mentioning in the past. Why are we not focusing more on the human element? Because we wasted a lot of time over the years, and I'm not blaming any particular government. We wasted a lot of time over the years when costs was low and things was easy. We failed to advance, to stretch, to expand our economy, putting into be raising the population, creating jobs and wealth for people to be able to take care of themselves. We wasted a lot of time because there was money available then. Now money has dried up. What do we do?
But you see,
cost is rising.
You see, caller, I want to agree and disagree with you at the same time because it has a lot to do with us as a people as well, because the monies can be available. Government can access the money, make it available to the people. But I think what happens is a lot of us become complacent. A lot of us become comfortable in the fact that things are good, things are nice. We don't have to worry that we don't make preparations for the future.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. Because you see, for instance, Trinidad was what you call the Caribbean US of A. They had money just thrown in the street until they look at them. Because they did not put value into their monies, and they're struggling. So the same question I'm saying there. So you're very right. When the good times are here, we lavish. We don't see beyond maybe our toenail or our fingertip.
Yeah.
So we don't prepare. But you see, I always believe that because doing management, I always believe in preparing my staff, them beyond where they are.
Yeah.
You see? So that will actually, and I am the person who will tell you, look, I'm paying you any more saves,
I am not the person who say, well, you do what you want with your money. The bigger picture is us in one business struggling. So I'm saying, hey, if I'm paying you 15% to save because I want my bank to be surviving.
Absolutely.
I want my service to be to run in a proper way. So you must put money aside because I will not be able to mind you when you get extra. Oh, you have to take care of yourself, and I believe in that.
Yeah.
So I'm saying here, because we did not see these things coming, and you have to stretch your imagination, because you see, life is based on imagination.
Yeah.
Imagination as a concept, and you actually study it comes up to reality. So you broaden it up. And we had not been looking critically of the survival, the future survival of the citizens and all. So as a result of that, we are caught napping. So we do not have the means, and medicine, health care is one of the more, and we spoke about the NHI, and all these things fit into my concept, what I'm thinking, and that's why I say those things that I say, not because I want to say it, but it's because I'm seeing it, that we did not prepare our citizens to survive these challenges because we did not, as I say, expand the economy fast enough to create jobs and a higher population and bigger turnover. So then we are struggling for money. How do we, at this point in time, with our people not being able to pay their doctor bills, and I was in the pharmacy yesterday, and I tell you, medicine is not cheap. It's very expensive. Yeah. So when you go to the doctor, one is either you pay the doctor bill or you don't. If you when the doctor gives you that prescription, you're going to look, well, that tablet is $100. You go back home. What you go home to do? You go home to die, because you're not able to buy the medication, so you cannot make it. And cost, as I told Mr. Boson a few years ago, and I was looking, I think, critically, I said, Mr. Boson, there will come a time, and I have to call his name, because this is my good friend, too. I said, what I saw, and I gave him a letter to effect, and we sat in his office and we discussed those things. I said, Mr. Boson, the bank has become a government, and you now have to muzzle the banks. Other than that, they will focus on everybody. Saying, well, the bank is a private sector. I said, no, you have to, legislation is got to bring them to book because you're operating on the central system. So I said, there will come a time, Mr. Boson, if you have not fast-tracked Grenadians to financial fortune, and I wanted to make it very clear. I didn't say economic. I said financial fortunes. Cost will overrun us. And then being in the V, how would we get out? Mr. Dwenner told him, Dwight Dwenner told him 2 weeks later, after we had the discussion, to the government, because he was sitting here, he said, the government have to prepare because within a 2-year period, you can be in the V. He said going down a precipice. Well, the difference between a precipice and a V is the same. A precipice is between two hills, and a V is between two hills, right? And so I said, down the V. And 2 weeks later, Mr. Dwight Brenner told him, the Minister of Finance and the government, you're going down a precipice. No, it is because, as he said, we was not using the developing our people financially to be able to take care of themselves on a timely basis. And so there will come a time where we will be struggling. So we are locked. No, I'm not saying the government is doing fine, right? I believe what I've seen, what I know, what I'm seeing. I'm not saying the government is not doing good. They're doing good. But you see, more should have been done before we have these things coming on us. And so my question now is, what would happen to us if everybody starts coming back? And that's a likelihood, and I've been saying this for years. If everybody starts coming back to our shores, fearfully of this thing, where do we put them? What is the state of our infrastructure? Where buildings and structure will have to go up? Is that prepared for them? Have we stretched the water resource to these areas and the electricity and whatever to go with that? Have we done that? No. So costs in those things will be so high that would the state be able to do this infrastructure, bearing in mind that we are struggling financially, those are the things that I always put in mind. I always bring it to my friends and even to the people in government offices over the years, ministers of government, minister of finance. Pay attention to this. Fiscal planning. We almost on a daily basis also to the fiscal plan and raise this concern. You have to do road planning, sir. You have to identify where roads have to go, because bear in mind, a lot of people is claiming back government-owned roads as land because they were grown in forest. So if government wants to do the old roads based on a map, is it available? No, it might not be available because somebody claimed it back for land. Somebody put a house on it. And those are things we have to do to make sure that the infrastructure for the development is put there in advance of the development. So that if we have, for instance, this situation here, we will have a place where everybody follow them back. Yes, we have a place for them to go. Because that will increase the population, increase commerce, and give any government a better chance of surviving in terms of raising revenue.
All right, caller. I don't want to cut you short. It's a very good conversation, of course, for another time. But I do have a health official on the line waiting to give us some more information. So we definitely will continue that conversation because it's a very important conversation and one that needs to be had.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
You're welcome. No problem.
Bye-bye.
All right, but the caller is right. We need to start preparing for the future. What are we doing to prepare for our future? So on the line with us this morning, we have Mr. Kevin Frederick, who is going to be giving us some more information, some more updates on the coronavirus as it becomes available. Good morning, Mr. Frederick.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Not bad.
All right, wonderful. So I know you're here to give us some more information. I know updates become available to you every day.
Yes, that is correct.
Right, and of course you have some new information for us, and if not new, some reiterations.
Yeah, I prefer to put it that way likewise. But so let me start off by playing a clip for you. I think that will put into context what I want us to be talking about this morning. So I'll start playing the clip for you, right? For you. I think that will put into one context what I want us to be talking about this morning. So I'll put.
We've also been given a broader briefing by the UK's Health Secretary, Matt Hancock.
Dealing with this disease is a marathon, not a sprint. The situation will get worse before it gets better. We will be guided by the science. Be in no doubt, we will do everything that is effective to tackle this virus and keep people safe.
Okay, so I'm sorry about the feedback, but
yeah, can you lower your volume in the background?
Sure, no problem. Right. So, as I said, I'm sorry about the feedback, right? But I wanted to play that because this is from the Secretary of Health in Great Britain, and what he said is that dealing with the virus is a marathon, not a sprint, meaning that it is going to take some time because the science keeps changing. It is like a moving target. And the reason why I played that clip is because for the same reason, we heard, and people been asking about it, about 24 days incubation. Now, let me just see, right, that the people who are speaking, they have a right to be concerned. But I think they would have misinterpreted what was said. So I want to read it back for you. The Corona Epidemic Update 15, right, was done by a pulmonologist. All right. Now listen to what he said here. It includes a discussion about underreporting of novel coronavirus infection and deaths, and a case report about a patient with apparent, noteworthy, a patient with apparent 24-day incubation period that may include a double infection, right? Per the WHO. Now listen now. Now this article has not been peer-reviewed, Now, what he's saying here, and this is what is confusing a number of people because they don't understand how it is done. So you have over 20,000 cases of persons, confirmed cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one doctor says to you here that a case report, so that's one case report about a patient with an apparent. Hence the reason why we have been saying, and I played the clip earlier, because the Home Secretary in London addressed the same matter. Likewise, Dr. Tedros had addressed the same concern, that you just don't jump and do things like that. Yes?
Right.
So what we have to understand is that one person may have discovered that, and the person wrote that himself. He said here, right, it's a case report, so it's one case report in a patient with an apparent. So he's not even concluding and saying that it is 24 days.
Right.
He's saying an apparent 24-day incubation period. That, listen now again, that may, so he's still not even confirming that. He's saying that may indicate a double infection. So with all of the hysteria, and people must digest and understand what the medical experts are saying. Because, and the reason why there is no science on that, and everybody's saying they will be guided by the science, it is simply because investigations must continue before they can arrive at that conclusion.
Right.
The first conclusion they had arrived at was 14 days. It was done out of an abundance of caution. No, with one person saying that there was, a case report. Now, how I know it operates is that when you look at the rate of infection and compare to the death rates and so on, one case generally is insufficient for there to be a conclusion.
Right.
I mean, the science does not work that way, and health don't work that way. No, not because a community call and say, well, we have mosquitoes, so fog. It's not done that way. So and just so and I mean, okay, we have been telling people what was causing Zika, and a lot of people doubted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until they realize, okay, well, yes, it is really that. So we have to be careful in what we read or hear, and understand. Understanding in health is one of the most complicated things. That's why we do plenty, research and participate in those online briefings, and meetings, because we could ask those questions.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't get to ask because we are in those closed-door meetings online.
Right.
So I mean, people need to understand that, and that was one of the points I really wanted to address, and that was as recent as yesterday. Now, I'm reading here for you data as reported by 11th February 2020. So what I'm giving you is current, right? That was yesterday's. And a lot of people do not have that, but I could share it. So the situation in numbers, a total of new cases in the last 24 hours, that would have been on the 10th, right? Globally, 43,103 confirmed cases. Of that amount, there were 2,560 new cases. That was globally. So hence the reason why when one person says, well, there was an apparent. Now, if it's all of the, just understand.
Yeah.
You're laughing. That's good because you see, if you have 43,000 plus, and there is only one apparent, it is inconclusive.
So
there is no way the WHO, CDC, or anybody will give that any kind of, voice. They would first do all of the assessments again behind the scenes, go through records, do testing before they can come out and say, well, yes, that is correct. Now, we are not saying that it is correct. What we're saying is that we are going to be guided by the science, and that is why even the Home Secretary responsible for health in London, he said so. We are going to be guided by the science. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon, because you have to look at that 43 and what would have happened between the 10th and yesterday, is that number could go up again.
Mm-hmm.
Now in China, there were 42,708 confirmed cases. Of that amount, 2,484 were new, right? 7,333 severe cases. Of that amount, 849 were new.
Mm-hmm.
There were 1,017 deaths. Of that amount, 108 new. Outside of China now, 395 confirmed, 76 new. 24 countries, 1 death.
Right.
And the WHO risk assessment, China is very high. Regional level, high. Global level, high. Okay?
Yeah.
So people need to trust the science and see where it is going. Because, I mean, to make those statements, it becomes laughable at best in some instances, hearing people, trying to underrate or downplay the science, but they, in one breath and in the same breath, they will come back and say, but look, the science is saying so. So when WHO says so, they have issues because they think, the information is coming out too slow. Mm-hmm. But if a doctor go and say that on news or post it on some social media, something so,
mm-hmm.
it is gospel.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, it's not that we at the ministry are going to decide, because we are guided and we are going to stay guided by the science. And I will send you, in email, what the report is. But let me say it too. The strategic objectives of WHO for this response are to limit human-to-human transmission, including reducing secondary infections among close contacts and healthcare workers, preventing transmission amplification events, and preventing further international spread from China. To identify and isolate and care for patients early, including providing optimized care for infected patients. To identify and reduce transmission from the animal source. To address crucial unknowns regarding clinical severity, extent of transmission and infection, treatment options, and accelerate the development of diagnostics, therapeutics, and vaccines. Communicate critical risk and event information to all communities and counter misinformation. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Counter misinformation and minimize social and economic impact through multi-sectoral partnership. So, and this is why, again, I am going to repeat that point. Yeah? We need to trust the science, because a lot of it is misinformation.
Right.
So we on the Ministry of Health side will continue to do what we are doing. There are also some recommendations and advice for the public, which I would share with you. Mm-hmm. So throughout your program, you will be able to just go through it and share it and things. Because like I said, it is the latest updated report that we have in our possession.
Right.
And I am confident that a number of persons do not have that report as yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It is going to become public, yes, but I'm confident that a number of them do not have that report as yet.
Yeah.
And I just saw something came in there, so that would be an update from the last couple hours or so, where it's like mid-morning already. So that is one coming from the Caribbean Public Health Agency that I'm sure other people do not have likewise. Mm-hmm. So that could be shared. So that's what I'm saying. We need to rely heavily on the science and not emotions, right? Because that is going to be the real, good public health outcomes. So that's basically it, for me on my end here.
All right.
We
Well,
need to continue to remind persons to please wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands,
yep.
wash your hands. Buy the hand sanitizers. I realize they are getting very cheap now because so much demand for them. Buy it, and use it. And even if people do not have the hand sanitizer, right, what they can do is to, the spirits and so forth, have spirits because it's alcohol-based hand sanitizer, which is 75% and up. And I think a lot of alcohol that we use down here, it has 100% proof. So, that is very, very high, in terms of content. So we should be trying and use that. If we don't have, remember, if you have to sneeze, use the crook of your elbow or do it in like tissue and dispose of the tissue safely and promptly. If you do not have clean running water and soap, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Like I said, if you have spirits and so forth, use it thoroughly. And when you come across a pipe or so with clean running water and soap, wash your hands.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kevin.
One more thing, sorry. Importantly, right, a number of people will wash their hands. And let me tell you what happens. The best way to wash your hand, people, remember this. You will take your dirty hand and open the pipe head, as we normally call it. Leave the water running after you would have washed your hands. Take the tissue, properly dry your hands. The same tissue that you would have used to dry your hands, take that tissue and turn off the pipe head or tap. Take that same tissue, right? If you don't want to waste tissue then, but if that's all what you have, take it and open the handle of the door. If it is a door, that will take you to the outside, and then you discard it outside.
Yeah.
There is no point in washing your hands because you would have opened the tap with your dirty hands. You wash your hands and then you go back and more or less put back germs on your hand by closing the pipe with your hands after you wash it. You're defeating the purpose.
Yeah.
So you're more or less fooling yourself thinking that you did something good. No. You take the tissue that you dried your hands with and you turn off the tap. That is how it is done.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. Because just before you called, I would have researched information on the 24 days because I've heard a lot of people talking about it. And I did come across similar information about it being a possible reinfection or reintroduction to the infection, but it's not something that has been researched or confirmed.
That is correct.
So it still goes back to we really got to be careful what we listen to and what we read.
And even so, too, when one says reinfection, it means that person would have already been infected. So the 24 days does not apply to that person. Say that new person then. It does not apply. So, it's just for people to, sit and digest and understand, and reason it out, properly.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for calling and let us know. Feel free at any time you have an update to continue to give us information. I think a lot of emotions have died down for now, and people are listening to reason and to facts. So at least we're at a good place now.
Oh, most definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling, Kevin.
Okay, you will. Okay.
You're welcome. All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, so you heard it there. See, that's why we have to definitely be careful what we listen to, what we share with the general public, and so on. You just have to wait on information from the officials. I know sometimes we are eager to find out what's going on. We're eager to get information. We want to be the first to post and we want to be the first to share. But there's no point in being the first person posting and the first person sharing if the information that you share is incorrect. So we have a caller on the line. We're going to take this call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
Interesting program, though,
Say that again?
I said interesting program.
Thank you.
Well, I'm calling from Carriacou. What if this thing attack you? What is the symptoms you have to look for?
Well, generally, the symptoms of the coronavirus would be something along the lines of a fever, difficulty breathing, and let me just pull up here so I don't give you... Right, so you get a fever, a cough, shortness of breath, that sort of thing.
Fever, shortness of breath.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to getting a common cold.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll get the point. So when I feel that, I know where it's coming.
Yes, but at this point, we have had no confirmed cases of the coronavirus in the region.
Well, do you think he might meet? I mean, you think he might come?
Well, I can't say whether I believe it's going to be here or not. But what I can say is that I think that we are thoroughly prepared as a nation to deal with it. And I think that if everybody on the island, if all of us as citizens do our part in preserving, in keeping the virus at bay, then we would be able to contain it. I mean, we're small, but we have a lot of plans in place. And as long as everybody, so in the event that you've traveled or somebody who has traveled and may have been exposed to the virus, because remember, we're talking about 24 countries worldwide who have had cases of the virus. So you really never know where it's going to come from. I know a lot of people has attached a stigma to China and to Chinese and so on. But right now this thing is it's in so many places that we really never know where it's going to come from.
So it's like a war coming to, we have to pick up our arms and prepare to fight back.
Prepare to fight back. Well, it's always a war, because remember, we have coronavirus today, tomorrow we have influenza, next week we have gastroenteritis. You really never know. So you just got to always be prepared.
So, Miss, what's your name, may I ask?
Miss Duncan.
Miss Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
I did Mr. Mills, Curtis for exact, Curtis Mills.
Mr. Mills.
Bel Air, Carriacou, close to the Princess Royal Hospital.
Oh, what?
But not
well,
in the hospital.
You're close, man.
Yeah, but not in the hospital.
Not in the hospital, but close to.
Yeah, sometimes if anything, I go sit down and ball out, not pharmacy. Yeah.
That's very good. But don't worry, we always share tips here on how to keep the coronavirus at bay. Right. Remember, it needs us to help transmit it to one another, right?
I know.
So if we wash our hands, if we practice good cough etiquette, if we ensure that we're not touching our faces so that the virus doesn't have access,
I know.
then we're in a good place.
Yeah, I understand you. Well, you have a nice day and take care of yourself, miss.
You as well, Mr. Mills.
I was listening to your interesting program.
Thank you.
All right, then, bye.
Enjoy your day in Carriacou.
Well, I'm going to roast some manicure now.
Hey, what? Y'all get rain up there for the day?
For the morning? No rain. Nikki, that sun, we.
Oh, Lord.
Since Nikki, that sun, no rain at all.
Don't worry, it's coming your way soon. All right.
But we are looking out by pretty much and they're looking kind of darkish, so maybe we might get on.
So maybe
before the day end, I'm looking forward for that.
All right. Well, I wish that for you guys too.
Yes, because the water tank going down low a little now.
Yep. And we're expecting to have a very robust dry season.
We do have to have a reservoir to get water, but while we have a concrete water tank in the yard.
Okay.
Yes, so from the spouting from the house, when rain come, it go down in the concrete water tank, and they will get the water from.
I still believe y'all in Carriacou more prepared for the dry season than us.
Yeah, well,
always.
Yeah, we always prepare. We always try our best to prepare. Sometimes the chocolates come around, and you have to run by the bucket and take from the trick water from the truck and run back in the yard with the bucket of water.
Right.
Guys are with us get the water sometimes,
Yeah. Well, you enjoy yourself, all right?
I do to me, sir.
All right.
Have a nice day as well.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we've got some people who are very concerned, who really don't have all of the facts and all of the information. But it's our responsibility as a people to ensure that all of our people get the information that they need. All right? Make sure that you inform your neighbor. Tell your friend. Tell somebody next to you. Granny up the road who only has her radio and maybe a television. Or maybe just her radio. Make sure that she has the information that she needs. All right? Let's all play a part in protecting each other. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning once again. Sorry
Good
to cut off
morning.
so quickly.
Mhm.
I want to compliment you for the programs. You know, as I told you before, I think from the inception of your presence there, you know, there is a difference in the way the station is run, you know, information and in terms of your humility, you know, which goes with it, your tolerance.
Mhm.
I want to compliment you for that. Not only you're well informed and can dialogue, but your tolerance in running the program, because I know sometimes certain things could get to you. And I want to compliment you for that.
Well, thank you.
I still want to go back on the health side of things.
Mhm.
And it has to be that you see your immune system. Once your immune system can be compromised, you know, over the years, none of these diseases, the germ bacteria, passed my way, even my family's way.
Right.
You know, and because I always protect myself and my family. That is what we have to do.
Well, you have to tell me what you're doing, you know, because I want to be, I want to be like that too.
I live right. And so if we can ensure that people can have the regular medical check and to actually pay attention to that vital vitamin, and not any vitamin, but good vitamin, and the right food, not meat, not too much meat, you know, because that is a problem too.
Yeah.
But you see the affordability of those things, and that is my concern. That's my concern. And
Well,
that's why I will always pound on the expansion of the economy as it relates to commerce and wages and salaries. I'm not compromising that at all. Despite the fact I work for very, very small salaries and survive because I had my strategies. But it's not everybody who have what I have and could cope with what I could cope with, that they're falling by the wayside. But we have to pay attention to that. Wages.
Well, I want to tell you this, Mr. Otley. So recently, over the years, I've been, you know, struggling with diet and thing. You know, you're busy, you eat the first thing that comes to you. Sometimes when I'm up late studying in the night, the easiest thing for me to do is snack, right? And I've always had this this thought that it is more expensive to be on a diet than it is to just cook macaroni and something or whatever. And what I've found recently, because I've been trying to live a lot cleaner in terms of what I eat, and what I've found is that the problem is not the price of the goods that we are trying to buy to eat cleaner, you know. You know what the problem is? The problem is we're trying to do both. So we're trying to stick to the old diet, but eat cleaner in between. And that is where the difficulty comes in. So once you eliminate one side, then you'll be able to manage the other.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's what a lot of us don't take into consideration. So for example, when I go to the grocery store and I buy all my greens and my vegetables and so on, in actuality, I'm paying less than if I were to go to the grocery and buy macaroni and a set of cheese and a set of chicken, you know, and all of these things. I'm not saying that people have a right to eat what they want, but what I'm saying is sometimes we say that it's more expensive simply because we're trying to do both.
But you see, on the side that the vegetable side now is more expensive, but it saves you in the long run because you will have less medical bills. But upfront, if you're going to stick to vegetable, it's very expensive. And that is where the problem is. So people gravitate back. Well, I can't make it to the lettuce, I can't make it to the cabbage, I can't make it to the broccoli and those things. So I go back to my rice and flour because that's going to stretch. And then the sugar with cake, sugar with bread.
Yeah.
You understand? And that is the problem. So they're going back to what will stretch and not do. Because you see, greens are eliminated from your body very quickly. Because look at the amount of greens you will eat. In an hour or two, it's gone. You digest and you go, so your body starts feeling weak again. But it's the right thing because your body saying, look, I want more nourishment,
Yeah.
So you see, in order to counter that, you see, well, you see, when I eat the bread, it does last longer because you see, you get a lot of energies. But the energies don't give you stamina.
No.
Don't give you what you need to survive, to prepare your immune system. You see, and so that is my concern, is that the job one, and then I say the salary too, to be able to cope with the food and the medical bills and whatever else. That is critical in fighting any disease, any bacteria.
Absolutely.
That is critical.
Absolutely.
Eating the right food, but having the money to buy the right food on a sustained basis. And you'll always hear me pounding that because that's the way I born. I born in a way where I care for people, and I look out for people. And so sometimes when I say money, I work for small salary. It doesn't matter to me because money is not my thing. But for others, what I could do with small salaries, other people might not be able to do it, And so give them a salary that they could live on and save, pay the medical bills, and then you can say, well, okay, you can't eat this, that, and the other, because commerce is a thing that support you. You need to support commerce. You need to buy your rice for you to keep the supermarket going. And so you must buy that. But you must have what it takes now to concentrate on those things that will give you strength, stamina, which is the greens, the vegetable, and then you stay away from all the other negatives, So that is my main concern, is that whereas we want to fight these germs and bacteria, they're very stubborn. Then we do not have the means, and they always find our immune system compromised because we don't have the money. The money, I say money because you see, money is what's going to buy the things that they need today, And once we could have that, then I think we don't have to be so fearful, because fear now is panic that is causing people to say a lot of things. No, I get in the news just other people get in. I don't panic over that, because I think, if it come by, well, I don't know, my body will may be able to sustain, but I don't make that a problem. I say, look, have what you need, eat the right thing, and protect yourself. And I would want everybody else to do, and that's why you always have me say, the expansion of the economy, to create more people, to create more commerce, etc. Some people might get upset with me, but what I am seeing in the distance is not too nice. And that will bring certain things up front to prepare people. Look, let us take these things, let us take life serious and people's well-being very serious. Don't play games with that, because in the end, all of us is going to suffer if people can't meet their needs and they can't survive. We're going to die too.
Yeah.
So I am begging on the executive and everybody, the private sector people, let us see if we could protect people by giving them the means to supply. It's not money in the world, We have sufficient money in the world. We have to fight less wars. We have sufficient money and food. It's just you don't get the money, although it's around. You don't get it to take care of yourself. Somehow, but people just are afraid of giving people money. I don't know if they feel you're going to build a nice house, buy lands, or buy a nice a fat bam car. But all these things is what it's all in the end. All just go and just disappear. It's not the money, it's not the house, it's not the land. It is the life that we have there that we're sustaining. Give people the need to sustain their life, and wherever what happen later, you're not responsible.
Absolutely. But I want to say this, though. Sometimes we complain about not having enough income or enough monies to do what we need to do. But somehow, we always find money for the wants, huh? We always find money for the wants.
I'm hoping you're not going to the cell phone and the Bourgeois show. I hope you're not going there. because you see, let me tell you, I am a person, I'm a commerce person. I'm a commerce. I always say to people in the past, I would want to see Grenada become the China. The China, on a market day in China, you cannot see the road. You can only see people walking head to head. That's how you see China. And maybe Singapore, Hong Kong. Because the market data be very high in people volume on the road. I want to see Grenada come that way. So commerce is my thing. And I will never shut down those business people commercially. So if we do things where the commerce people can survive, we're all dead. Yeah. So I am not challenging commerce at all in terms of what they have to sell, but I'm only saying that we could select if we have the right money in our pocket. I always say to my workers when I have to pay people, you see, my money, I does not get any easy money. So when I pay you, please, sir, save some money.
Save some. It definitely has to do with managing what you have, because to be honest, for the average person, if you ask them what is the right amount, the right salary, they won't be able to tell you, because by the time they get the money they request now, they thought about 50 different things that money
yes.
is going to go to,
yes.
and then tomorrow they're going to
disappear.
tell you it's not enough.
It disappears.
Yeah.
Because you see such people, they don't plan ahead. They don't have a plan, so they're spontaneous. So you get maybe $1,000, and you see three things that value $1,000 you buy it. You understand? You want to buy it now, and that's it. You're not going to get the same thing maybe 6 or 8 months later.
Yeah.
And so we have to have that financial discipline in order to see it. But if we get the money, as I said, I as an employer could tell you, if I employ you, I want to see a bank account. Please bring your bank book to me, and I will be monitoring your bank book from time to time
So
to
you
see
can
that
save.
you put in the money there. Because your saving in the bank is my survival as a business person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have the government the same thing. If people doesn't save, you will get no revenue. In other words, you won't have money in the bank, so there will be no commercial transactions. So I'm saying once I pay you, you could say what you want. I can't tell you how to spend your money. Well, if I can't tell you to save, well, I'm going to fire you.
Yeah.
You have to save. You are not going to remain poor under me as a owner manager. No. You have to save, monitor your bank, and when you're ready to do something wise, I'm going to guide you there. I will never have a poor population.
All right.
Trust me.
We'll have another caller that's been calling for the longest
great
while.
day.
So let's give everyone a chance.
Sure.
We'll continue the conversation, though. Very good topic.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Good morning, caller.
Duncan.
Hi. Good morning.
Morning. No maliceness. But that caller you had on the phone, he's talking for 23 minutes. He called the first time, he talked for about 89 minutes, he called again. You can't allow that because, you use the host, you listen, you have to say, you come back on the second time, if you have anything to say, 1 minute. That's what Sheldon and Devon and them does. And you have to take up the same slack. You can't allow it. Because it's very important. Everybody wants to listen to you. People like your voice, they like the way you speak. But no, let's one man steal the show. Mr. Perfect steal the show. Because everything he said,
all right.
He in a dream. People have to come back to Grenada. Everybody expect everybody coming back. The government have to prepare for everybody coming back. So they're supposed to fix the road. They're supposed to build houses, waiting for... He live in a dream. You don't know that ain't happening. I know that ain't happening. The Grenadian people know that ain't happening.
All right, caller. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's okay.
Yes, I understand. It's your own opinion. But there is times you have to say, oh my God, cool it. Because he ain't cooling it. Day by day, same thing. He know how to fix Grenada. He always talk to the big minister. He knows how to do everything in Grenada. Have a nice day, Sister Duncan.
All right. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. We really can't restrict someone from sharing their own opinion. Can he be a lot less lengthy? Maybe, but we definitely don't want to get into the business of restricting people from sharing their opinions. We got another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my sweetheart.
Hi, Miss Jacob. How are you?
Giving me some driver to go. I also go with tomorrow, but me I to work with my birth paper, Papa.
Okay, you have your birth paper?
Yeah, I had it. But my niece and them, they born it when I was sick. They born every living thing. If they get me and all, they are born me up.
So you have to get a new one?
Yes, I have to get a new one, but
okay.
Oh God, this thing's so terrible with me.
All right. Well, call me after the program.
Mm-hmm.
Call me after the program in the office, and let me see how I can sort you out, okay?
Okay, Popo.
All right. Have a lovely day. Huh?
I say I love you.
Love you too, Miss Jacob.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, we got to do what we can to help each other. It is a we thing. It's our thing. It's Grenadian. We know how to stand together. If it's one thing I know we know how to do as Grenadians, it's to stand together. Sometimes the topics we choose to stand together on may be a little controversial, but we know how to stand together. All right? Now, reminding you, as Ms. Jacob just called me, they're reminding you that renewal of your voter's identification card. That is still happening. It's still ongoing. Remember, if you have your old ID card, you would want to walk with that. And, of course, a piece of valid ID, whether it's your birth certificate stamped and sealed or your passport. So remember to do that. If you don't have your ID card, that does not restrict you from going to get a new one, all right, or get it renewed. So please, we're asking everyone out there to go. The process is ongoing. There has been no specified date for closure as yet on that renewal period. So go out there and get your registration done. We have a call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Saying? Yeah, Ms. Duncan, I want to say congratulations to the Ministry of Health and the airport and the Grenadian people. The Grenadian people just listen to the real truth, because there's a lot of propaganda outside there about that virus in the air. I want to say the Grenadian people, they stand and they get the truth from the Ministry of Health, they get truth from the airport authority, from Ms. Williams, and now they think that, yes, we are concerned. Well, see, guys, see what people are trying, the haters are trying to do, bring fear and bring panic in people that are spreading propaganda. I want to say to the Grenadian people, the truth will always stand the test of time. The fact, the friction will always pass away. It is just for time. All right? I want to say that the Ministry of Health do a wonderful job in sensitizing the public about the coronavirus. The airport do a wonderful job in sensitizing, and the Grenadian people know what is going on. So far, with the 4 case quarantine right now, and the Ministry of Health and the government, they're doing a wonderful job in sensitizing the public about this virus.
Well, caller, it's not 4 cases quarantine, eh?
Yeah.
We don't have any cases, but we have nationals
okay,
that...
full quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Full quarantine, no 4 cases. Full quarantine so far. And so I say the government and the Ministry of Health is doing a wonderful job, letting the Grenadian people know the facts. And I always say the facts will stand the test of time. Friction and fake will fail away. So I would say kudos to the government, and they are doing a wonderful job. Ms. Duncan, have a wonderful day. God bless you.
You too. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and as time winds down, of course, let me do my duty and ensure that you are informed, give you advice on how to keep the virus at bay. Remember, it needs each and every single one of us to transmit, all right? It needs a host. So you want to ensure that you wash your hands frequently, practice respiratory hygiene. So when you're coughing and sneezing, cover your mouth and your nose with a flexed elbow or, of course, a disposable tissue or towelette, all right? And ensure that you dispose of it immediately. And, of course, you want to ensure that you must maintain a safe social distance of 1 meter or 3 feet from yourself and other people, particularly those who are coughing and sneezing or those who have a fever. And, of course, you want to remember to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and your mouth, all right? You also want to make sure that if you have had any mild respiratory symptoms and no travel history to or within China, still practice your basic respiratory hygiene. All right, and of course, for those of you who are concerned, because we know that dealing with this issue is very stressful. All right, so we do have some tips here on helping you to cope with stress during the outbreak. All right, so it's normal to feel sad and stressed, confused, scared, or angry during a crisis. Talking to people you can trust will help. So contact your friends and family. And if you must stay at home, maintain a healthy lifestyle, including a proper diet, sleep, exercise, and social contacts with the loved ones at home and by email and phone with other family and friends. Do not use smoking, alcohol, or other drugs to deal with your emotions. If you feel overwhelmed, talk to your health worker or a counselor. have a plan where to go and how to seek help for physical and mental health needs if it is required. Get the facts. Gather information that will help you accurately determine your risk so that you can take responsible precautions. Find a credible source you can trust, such as the World Health Organization website or the local or state public health agency. In our case, it is the Ministry of Health. Limit worry and agitation by lessening the time you and your family spend watching or listening to media coverage that you perceive as upsetting. And most importantly, draw on skills that you have used in the past that have helped you to manage previous life adversities, and use those skills to help you manage your emotion during the challenging time of this outbreak. Guys, we are out of time, but of course, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
Grenada hailed yet again for structural adjustment reform. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Tuesday, February 11th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. Grenada has again been recognized for significant improvements in its overall economic activity following implementation of its structural reform program. During the annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank on Tuesday, the bank's Director of Economics, Dr. Justin Ram, singled out Grenada for being able to significantly reduce its debt-to-GDP ratio as a result of belt-tightening measures.
There have only been a few countries in the Caribbean that have recently implemented significant fiscal reforms and structural reforms as well. And I can say to you that the countries that have done that, the majority of them have seen improvements in their overall economic activity. Take, for example, Grenada. When Grenada began its homegrown adjustment program a few years ago, it had a debt-to-GDP ratio in excess of 100%. Today, I'm happy to report that that debt-to-GDP ratio is below 60%. This is 10 years ahead of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union's target of when they should have achieved this target, which there's that target that has been set by 2030.
Grenada's Premier Athletic Championship is returning, but under new sponsorship. A press launch was held on Tuesday to announce the launch of the 3-day Republic Bank Inter-Secondary Schools Athletics Championship, or Intercol, which will take place on March 31st and April 1st and 2nd. For more than 38 years, the games were held under the title sponsorship of Scotiabank, which was acquired by Republic Bank just over 3 months ago. Mr. Keith Johnson, Managing Director of Republic Bank, says this is a new beginning of a partnership between Republic Bank and Intercol.
But we're very pleased to host this first ever Republic Bank Inter-Secondary Schools Athletic Championships, fondly referred to as Intercol. As has been said before, Republic Bank boasts an enviable track record of support in the area of youth development through sports. And the Intercol Games is a huge addition to the illustrious list of sporting activities supported by the bank, such as the Right Start Youth Football Tournament, the Right Start Under-19 Inter-Parish Cricket Tournament, and the National Learn to Swim Week, just to name a few.
Mr. Kevin Andel, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information, says government values the place that Intercol has in the lives and fabric of the Grenadian society.
Our students, through the Intercol and other sporting activities, better their economic status. And we have many examples. We can just think of one, Kirani James. But not only better in his economic status, but also he became an ambassador for our country. The mileage that we have gained from Kirani James' exploit, we cannot pay for that. But remember vividly the humble days of Intercall when Kirani showcased his talent. Also, the Intercall and what it provides has also created an opportunity for scouts to see our talents. And some of our students through Intercall and the exhibition, through that event, is the only opportunity for higher education.
And the chairman of the Grenada Association of Secondary School Principals, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, says coverage for athletes is currently a significant talking point.
One way to ensure the care and development of our athletes is not only about managing the number of events that they participate in, but it's also about ensuring that they have coverage. And we are pleased to announce that for the first time in the history of the Games, we are negotiating coverage for our athletes.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Kayak Mass 2020. February 15th to February 25th. An real event making one spectacular carnival. Saturday, February 15th. Children Mass, Frolic, and the Big Show. Thursday, February 20th. Queen Show Night. February 21st. Soca Monarch. Saturday, 22nd. Jab Convention. Calypso and Groovy. Sunday, February 23rd. Monday, Juve and Monday Night Mass. Tuesday, February 25th. Shakespeare Mass and the Last Lap. All the major MCs and DJs will be inside Kayak Mass 2020. Make reservations and book now.
Continuing the news, the Ministry of Health says while there is no evidence that the coronavirus is in the region, systems have been put in place for testing. Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Francis Martin says CARFA, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, now has the ability to test for the virus.
We have swabs that we're able to use to get samples, and CARFA is able to test. So Grenada will be using CARFA for the testing of coronavirus, and this can happen right now as we speak, and that's a plus for us. As with many of our smaller islands, turnaround time has to do with travel. That's really what it is, because it takes a couple hours to actually do the test. So our focus is how efficient is our shipping and receiving the samples. CARFA confirmed to us that in a couple hours they can give us a result. And if there's a need for confirmation, well, there's a little other DNA typing that they may do if they get a positive test. That might take another 2 days. But in terms of the positive test, in a few hours the result is available.
Health Minister, the Honourable Nicholas Steele, says CARICOM health ministers have also put systems in place to ensure efficiency in transport of tests once the need arises.
We have confirmed through all of the various ports, i.e. all of the airports, that the tests will be allowed to transit through on Liat or Caribbean Airways or any other method, and also that there is a backup of RSS, that RSS logistically will be assisting as well, regional security services with their aircraft if necessary.
Meanwhile, the head of the Epidemiological and Surveillance Units, Dr. Sean Charles, says passengers arriving on flights with those who have been quarantined are not at risk if those individuals have no exhibited symptoms.
The disease is transmitted by respiratory droplets that are expelled or ejected when someone coughs and sneezes and so on. Someone who is asymptomatic, they have no cough, they're not sneezing on anyone. The mere fact that they're breathing the same air with you does not mean that you are at risk of getting the disease. All right, the disease is transmitted by respiratory droplets that are produced and expelled when someone coughs and sneezes or so. So if someone does not have these signs and symptoms, then they will not transmit the disease.
Grenada is being represented at the World Bank's International Development Association IDA high-level meeting with the Eastern Caribbean, which is taking place in Miami this week. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, and Minister for Climate Resilience and the Environment, Senator Simon Steele, are among government representatives from the Eastern Caribbean attending the meeting, along with representatives from the World Bank. The high-level dialogue is intended to discuss strategic priorities in preparation for the utilization of IDA resources from July 2020 to June 2023. Blue economy and renewable energy are particular areas of focus for the meeting. According to the invitation letter from the World Bank, and I quote, the purpose is to have an evidence-based dialogue, reach a joint understanding on the state of play in these areas, and access the potential for future IDA 19 supported engagement and development results, unquote. IDA 19 resources for Grenada, Dominica, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are estimated at $350 million. Under IDA 18, Grenada benefited from $74 million that supported government's resilience building and digital transformation agendas and other strategic areas. The IDA resources were in the form of 2 policy-based loans, valued at $50 million to support climate resilience and fiscal sustainability, $15 million for digital governance for resilience project, $6 million for a regional health project, and $3 million in additional support for CASIP project. And finally, Grenada has won the quartz reading competition. Melody Garrett from Mount Rose SDA triumphed over her regional colleagues in the final in St. Lucia on Tuesday. Her winning prizes include a check valued at $5,000, a trophy, and a laptop. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.